Hello, good evening and welcome to Hot Edition here on 3FM 92.7. My name is Christabel Success Treve, and in our summaries tonight, Ghana's Defense Minister Dr. Edward Omani-Boamah announced that the country's presidential jet, a Falcon 900EX acquired in 2010, has been grounded due to severe corrosion and is unfit for service. The jet has been out of use for months after structural issues were discovered during maintenance. Independent technicians confirmed the aircraft's corrosion, not the Ghana Air Force. Despite this, the government will not resort to renting luxury aircraft for presidential travel, emphasizing austerity under President Mahama's administration. Future decisions on air travel will be made in line with broader military needs, with a proposal for $1 billion in defense spending already submitted. The jet's return is uncertain, with previous repair deadlines repeatedly missed. In other stories, the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, has scheduled maintenance work on Tuesday, July 22, 2025, affecting power supply in several regions from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. ECG urges residents to switch off sensitive appliances and prepare for the disruption. The maintenance is necessary to improve service delivery, and updates will be available on ECG's website and social media platforms. The Ministry of Defense has uncovered that 210 out of 452 candidates, that's 46% in recent admissions to the Ghana Military Academy, were unqualified, leading to the cancellation of their intake. This includes 34 candidates in course 64 who must meet enlistment requirements or face removal, and all affected candidates in courses 65 and short service course 62 has been dismissed. Additionally, 2,872 non-officer recruits from the last approved enlistment in October 2021 who haven't started training due to delays at the Army Recruit Training School have also had their intake cancelled. A new nationwide recruitment exercise will take place in August 2025 with a digital enlistment portal introduced to reduce fraud. And in our last story, the government of Ghana has extended the free senior high school policy to cover 60 private schools, which is a significant development since the policy was first introduced by the Akufo-Addo administration. This inclusion is expected to help reduce congestion in public senior high schools and ensure that more students can benefit from quality education, regardless of whether they attend public or private institutions. The move has been welcomed by the Ghana National Council of Private Schools, which sees it as a step toward broadening access to quality education. We've got a lot more on our website, 3news.com. Please stay with us.
Let's get into some of the stories here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. As we're learning now that the University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, they have threatened an industrial action, that's a strike, over what they term government's lackluster approach to Galamsey fight. We'll give you details of that shortly when the national president of the University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, joins us in a bit. But the government is pressing the National Security Secretariat for answers after thousands of rounds of military ammunition transferred from the Ghana Armed Forces to the outfit in 2024 were reported missing. Now, Defense Minister Dr. Edward Omani-Boamah revealed the discrepancy during a media briefing today, calling it an irregular transfer that remains unresolved per the ministry's briefing on this matter. Here's what happened at the press briefing earlier today.
I must say that, yes, it is not every detail that I can provide at this stage. But the fact that it's taking this long to capture it in this minute detail should tell you there must be a reason. If you go back to the President's State of the Nation address, 2025, he hinted at it. This is the next phase. But the reality is that to date, those ammunitions have not been accounted for. How the Ghana Armed Forces could transfer ammunitions to national security that doesn't have a fighting force in 2024 is a question that will definitely have to be answered. The Ghana Armed Forces has passed it on to the National Security Secretariat for the National Security Secretariat to investigate it, since they were the recipients of the ammunitions. But what we are doing is, under our watchful eyes, any such incidents will not be dealt with like the way it was handled in the past. So whilst we have encircled this and handed it over to National Security for National Security to handle, whatever will fall within our domain from January onwards, trust that we will deal with it the way the military knows best.
Dr. Edward Omaniboma confirmed that the unaccounted for ammunitions whose exact quantity and type were undisclosed is under investigation by the National Security Secretariat, who supposedly received the weapons last year. He warned that the military will take decisive action if the probe fails to trace the missing stockpile, though he did not specify potential measures. So this is quite a troubling development, which we're going to be joined by a security analyst to help us understand the implications of what we're talking about shortly. But this is what Dr. Edward Omaniboma said.
We have kept our nation safe and stable, notwithstanding the irregular transfer of thousands of rounds of military ammunition in 2024 from the Ghana Armed Forces to the National Security Outfit. Ammunitions which have since not been accounted for.
Well, so a former Deputy Defense Minister in the actual Akufo-Addo administration, Kofi Amankwa-Mano, also expressed doubt that the weapons are missing. He spoke to Accra-based Joy News on this particular matter earlier today.
It is very difficult for anybody to sit and say we cannot account for some ammunitions or anything of that sort. Because whenever delivery, as the military takes delivery of ammunition, they have a meticulous way of taking records, keeping records, and all that. And so anything and everything that moves from every stage, there should be some accountability, or there should be proper records of all that. That I will beg to differ. If thousands of that cannot be accounted for, that did not get to the Ministry of Defense. And you and I know that these things are managed by the Ghana Armed Forces. And these things are managed by people who have the expertise to manage them. And for me, accounting for these things will not be so difficult at all. My brother, anytime national security needed any help, they fell sometimes on the Ghana Armed Forces, right. And even the Ghana Police. And so tracing all these things wouldn't be a difficult situation at all. It would not be difficult at all.
Yet 6 months into the administration, they've not been able to trace the ammunition and what it was used for. 6 months, and this is coming from the sector minister.
This should be the work of the minister to find out that, okay, so where did this go? And once they have records, this will not be a difficult thing to really do.
Well, so that's the verdict of the former Deputy Defense Minister in the Akufo-Addo administration. That's Kofi Amankwa-Mano. He says it's not supposed to be a difficult matter in terms of tracing the ammunitions that you just heard Dr. Edward Omaniboma indicate that they cannot be traced. And in fact, the military, through the national security or with the national security, have also launched some investigation into exactly where we understand the weapons, that the military ammunition that was transferred from the Ghana Armed Forces to the outfit of the national security in 2024 and have been reported missing. Now, the defense minister has been giving details, the discrepancy during that media briefing earlier today, calling it an irregular transfer that remains unresolved. Then you hear a former deputy minister indicate that, deputy defense minister indicate that this is not supposed to be difficult for the minister to trace. So what exactly is playing out right now? A man who understands the security architecture of how, this movement of ammunition really is Richard Commodore, security analyst. We spoke to him earlier to find out his view on what is happening right now with these ammunitions that cannot be traced as we speak.
No, definitely not the entire government, but individuals who supervise the movement of these ammunition, the storage, the retrieval, and how they are distributed. There's a catalog of events, and there's a chain of command and security operational manual, how these things are done due to the delicate nature of them. So there are individuals assigned to these movements at all points of entry and exit. And I think they are the ones that needed to be held accountable, but not the entire government. Definitely we should be worried. If you remember, the Small Arms Commission is struggling. There's gun violence everywhere. There's a lot of arms and ammunition in the system without registration. There are sophisticated weapons in the hands of illegitimate people. The illegal use of guns, and it's leading to crime, and crime is going up. If you remember, when it came to the vetting of the Supreme Court justices, two of them raised the issue that crime cases at the courts are going up. And many of these crime cases are involved with, they're involving arms, and sophisticated arms for that matter. So we should be worried. What will alleviate the fear of Ghanaians is when investigations are done and people are held accountable and prosecution take place. Then people can see that there's accountability. Other than that, there's everything in there to make people worried about the new developments we are hearing. The issue is politics and political accountability. These are politicians who move arms. These are politicians who move ammunition, and they cannot be accountable. When we were doing the handover, at the point when the NPP was handing over to the NDC, all these issues should be addressed. Who is responsible for what? And if politicians cannot be accountable and they cannot be held accountable, then you will have problem with this type of democracy. And that is why you have numerous charges and numerous offenses being committed by crime, and nobody is being held accountable because the one prosecuting is also a politician. So if you want this democracy to develop and to become a standard for benchmarking in many of the things we do, you will need to look at the prosecution area or the prosecutorial authority and the team as well. They are all made up of politicians, and these are politicians who move arms and possibly give it to their party boys and girls, and that is why they cannot account for them, or somebody has gone to sell them in the open market or the black market. And that is why when it comes to West Africa, issues about gun smuggling, money laundering, and drugs, they are synonymous and they work together. I think we should be worried. This is a serious issue and people have to be held accountable. We are talking about 7 months in government. This thing would have come out at the transition level. Nobody has been held publicly accountable for missing ammunition until today. Nobody has heard about where the ammunitions have gone to and those who are responsible until today. For many people within the security intelligence community, only few people were aware the movement of these arms, where they landed and who did what. But to the generality of the Ghanaian population, they are hearing it for the first time. Our mothers and fathers and aunties and uncles will be worried. And so if the NDC cannot prosecute those responsible for this, then people are likely to say it is the same script and they are different artists.
That's Richard Commodore, security analyst there. So live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. Your thoughts, views, and as always, comments are welcome on 3 News. Also on 3FM 927 on Facebook and on X. Right out to you and to the rest of the world. Let's get into some more of the stories here on Hot Edition. As the University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG, has rebuked the Mahama administration, accusing it of reneging on its pre-election pledge to combat illegal mining. That's Galamsey. In a strongly worded statement jointly signed by UTAG's National President, Professor Mahmoud Akulgu, and the National Secretary, Professor Eliasu Mumuni, the association lamented the government's lackluster commitment to environmental protection despite mounting devastating the cause of it, as we're seeing, of illegal mining across the country. It followed a National Emergency and Executive Council meeting on July 17, 2025, which concluded that President Mohammed's 6 months in office has yielded modest gains, but failed to deliver the concrete action promised in his 2024 national pledge against illegal mining and irresponsible mining. The association highlighted 5 critical unfulfilled commitments. 1, no decisive presidential condemnation of Galamsey's environmental harm. 2, refusal to declare a state of emergency in hardest hit regions like Ashanti and Eastern regions, despite labeling Galamsey a national emergency. 3, perceived inaction against politically connected Galamsey kingpins. 4, absence of coherent long-term anti-Galamsey strategies. And 5, no dismissal of local officials allegedly shielding illegal miners. UTAG warned that failure to act within a reasonable time frame would trigger industrial action. The action and association is indicating that they're demanding the repeal of the legislative instrument LI 2462, which permits mining in forest reserves, and renewed calls for a state of emergency in the Galamsey hotspots. We'll be joined by UTAG shortly to have a conversation on this particular statement, but that they have issued. But earlier, on Key Point over the weekend, Felix Kwachofosu, the minister in charge of government communication, did indicate that there is commitment to repeal the LI 2462, but government is dealing with some 20 leases that have been issued to companies under the existing framework of the legislative instrument, which has made it difficult for the government to repeal the LI 2462. Take a look.
But as the Attorney General indicated, they will be taken through the same processes as everybody else will be taken through if they were to be alleged to be involved in this action. So that point must be clearly established. In that regulation, the president was given power to ask the minister to grant a lease to mining companies to do mining in forest reserves. But that is lawful. It is regulated. And therefore is not harmful to the environment in the same way that illegal miners do it. You understand me? Right. Now, today, you cannot say that you have scrapped regulations that guide how a particular activity provided for by law should be done. The moment you do that, there is no regulation. It means that you are creating chaos. Some have said that, oh, there used to be guidelines, but the guidelines don't exist anymore. They have been replaced by regulations properly passed by the Parliament of Ghana. The problematic clause in that was that the president could grant the lease. That has been removed. There's another law, the Mining and Minerals Act, that allows mining to be done in forest reserves, but lawfully. You see, some also say that we should even ban immediately mining in forest reserves. Alfred, you see, we are a country of laws. Between 1987 and last year, 20 mining leases have been granted to companies. We have taken money from them and agreed that they should mine lawfully in forest reserves. They include some of the biggest mines in the world, Newmonts and what have you. You've taken their money. Then midstream, you decide that you have banned mining activity. The implication is that you must find their money for them. It runs into billions of dollars. Do you have billions of dollars to hand over to these companies to ask them to leave immediately? No. So you can't go to Parliament and pass a law that today everybody should stop mining in forest reserves. Unless, of course, you are able to reach agreement for them to walk away quietly or give them alternative places to mine. But even then, they have to agree. You cannot enforce that. No court in this land, in the world, will ever vindicate the rights of a government that does that. It will be lawless. And it will damage our reputation as a country permanently in terms of investment. I must also stress that those companies are doing so responsibly because they have the expertise and capacity to reclaim the land for you after in fact, it was a condition for granting them that lease. So whereas we respect the views of civil society and those who say that. It must be tested against the reality, the objective reality, the interests of the country, and what we can or cannot do as a government.
Right.
The other issue too about state of emergency, and it's important that Martin asked that question. You see, what is the state of emergency? It means that you say that a special dispensation has come into play. When you see a minor shoot him dead, the president will take responsibility. That is what we are saying. But why are we suggesting in this country that we should operate a shoot-to-kill policy? Look, even murder, when somebody kills a human being, which is perhaps the most ultimate crime in human history, you have to go through. You are not allowed to shoot a person dead immediately. You accuse him of murder. Armed robbery. The punishment for armed robbery is not summary execution. You understand me? So Galamsey is a horrible crime, but there's a reason why laws are made so that we don't live in a chaotic society. So tomorrow, soldiers will kill people extrajudicially, and they will come and tell you that they are minors. You go and put them in mining pits and claim that they are minors. You have no way of knowing whether or not it is true. Indeed, we have had instances where the police have opened fire on people, killed them, and come to claim that they are armed robbers. When the alternative narrative shows that indeed they were not armed robbers. So you cannot allow that. And then thirdly, Alfred, do we necessarily need a state of emergency before we can fight Galamsey? People speak as though the day you declare a state of emergency, Galamsey is won. That is, it is not as simple as that. So that's why I said that, yes, civil society has a right to speak, but let us not create an impression that the moment civil society says this, that is what must happen. Otherwise, there's no other path.
That's Felix Kwachofo. So he speaks for government. In fact, he's a minister in charge of government communication, also the Abrasebo Command Council member of parliament there. Now, this is in direct response to some of the demands that UTAG is making in this statement. Now, I spoke to him earlier on key point. Now, joining us on the telephone, Professor Eliasu Mumuni is the National Secretary of the University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG. Professor Eliasu Mumuni, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening to your listeners.
First of all, I want to find out from you if I'm sure you did hear some of the things that Felix Kwachofo also did indicate. Let's start from the point of the LI 2462, one of the demands that you're making, in fact, which you've been consistent at even before the election, was that it should be repealed. He's indicated that, yes, they made that particular pledge as well, but coming into office, they have also discovered that 20 leases have been issued to mining companies to mine responsibly in forest reserves, and that if the LI has to be repealed, as has been the demand consistently, then these mining companies would have to be compensated, as in their money is given to them. So government is dealing with that to get out of the way before the total repeal of the law. In that, they have now also dealt with the problematic aspect of that law, which gave mining companies access to mining forest reserve, which has been repealed as we speak. What's your response to that?
Yeah, thank you. Our response to that is to say that if you look at that rendition of it, first, if we are to repeal, it means that the remaining or the other 20 licenses that we have may come for a compensation which we have to deal with. And why don't we just repeal the law in its entirety now, whilst we deal with the repercussions of the other 20 that we've already had, instead of kind of prolonging this other process that allows for a system to kind of give an oxygen to many other actors who take advantage of it. It's an opportunity. And so, for instance, the recent review of that particular LI, we were thinking that government would have just taken an advantage to more or less repeal the entire LI. And then these other consequences that kind of await us for the decision or act that has been taking place would have been addressed as government put in place certain measures to mitigate that. But to now take it that bit form with time means that we are actually looking for other ways to really deal with this that may not be very effective as we are seeing. And we issued this particular statement, recounting some of the progress and effort being made by government. It hasn't been the same. but we want consistency and much more proactiveness, in the fight, and especially that we keep on seeing that consistent increase, and some other actors within the governing party being involved. And commendation must actually be given by the directive from the Attorney General for these other two officers to be picked up by
That's the EOCO, the Economic and Organized Crime Office.
As an institution. That is very commendable. But we want to push further that if you look at the pact that was actually signed by both parties, including the Butterfly Party, what Felix, for instance, is pushing against was actually one of the most key three things. One was state of emergency. Of course, we know the other intricacies that comes with that term. But it's not just for us to have this one route of a state of emergency. Why not? We can have this very peculiar one that looks at not just a total military invasion that will bring some of these consequences that he's mentioning, but in a way that kind of puts an embargo on most of these small-scale areas that we are seeing, being mined and not being mined responsibly. So a framework can be actually applied for such an emergency to occur, or the total repeal. So there were three key main things that we signed with all of them, for which, based on the discussions, they all agreed. And so we were just more or less repeating some of the commitments or the social contract UTAG entered with, together with the coalition, entered with the flag bearers and the heads of the political parties. And to remind them that it's been 6 months, there's been some progress though, but let's speed up, let's tidy up certain things, and to remind them of these other commitments that were made.
I see.
Just targeting one or two aspects of the allies, of course, is good, but we still have it in there that many other actors within the chain can take advantage of. And those were the things that we are pointing government to.
I see. Now, you talk about the fact that there's growing evidence of some of the elements within this administration being involved in illegal mining. I just want to find out if UTAG has that information, as it were, of these persons in this administration who, or in the ruling party who are involved in illegal mining. Do you have any evidence or some more information to that effect?
For us, we've not really conducted a typical research into this. And for example, especially post the December elections, what we have done is basically to do a curation of media reports. And as part of for instance, the emergency meeting UTAG had, we had to now listen to various other media practitioners who are deeply involved and to give us a first account of what was happening in various mining regions. And, in addition to that, we had to now again, as a coalition, listen to the recent coalition reports that we've had, including the briefings from the minister.
I see.
These things actually helped us to put together this statement and to say, okay, we've gotten an updated version of what is actually happening currently regarding small-scale mining or typically illegal, mining. And these are the things that we think government should beef its effort on.
I see.
But to have a specific research on who and who as part of a government function, we're referring to typically, for instance, the directive by the Attorney General. That gives an indication that we may not have actually ministers or the chief executives or other people from the appointed group getting into it, but from, for instance, the governing party, like we saw from the Attorney General's letter. And that gives a kind of scary outlook that if these things are not nipped in very well, we may likely get to a situation where some other appointed functionaries may have the interest or temptation to be involved. And once a gatekeeper starts to be involved in these processes, it means that we really will have to raise up our hands.
I know. I asked this question because you made that statement, emphatic statement about the information that UTAG had, that there are some persons within the ruling party who are involved in illegal mining. But then you clear that you only dwell on the media reports that you also got during your meeting. But then there's a third point that you make in the statement, that there's perceived inaction against the politically connected Galamsey kingpins. And you also commend the government and the Attorney General for taking the action of referring the national organizer of the NDC and the third national vice chairman of the NDC to IOCO for their alleged or reported involvement in illegal mining. But then again, in your statement, you're saying that there's inaction against politically exposed persons. How do I reconcile these two positions?
Yeah, so it's a double-edged sword. Whilst you want to comment, you also still want to push out, because again, from the media reports, we've heard of some district chief executives and other things from the Western region who really, from media reports, have been in one way or the other, are involved in this particular illegal act, that we've really not seen that very specific way of addressing it by either prosecution or an arrest. And so we did a holistic examination and saw that, of course, these media reports came while targeting some other people that, they are involved, they are part of the machinery, but nothing has happened. And so we needed to just actually commend government for this, while still pushing that there are some from the media reports that indicates that involved directly or indirectly. And we've not really, as a public, heard that an investigation is being done or they are prosecuted, or, there's that type of an action towards making sure that appointed those, any other person being part of the machinery, are restrained or stopped from being engaged in this. That is why we came with that duality of a statement.
I see, but then in all of this, you describe the collective approach of government in the fight against illegal mining as lackluster commitment. I mean, if what you're saying is anything to go by, that expression or the description of a lackluster commitment, would you say it's a rather inconsistent description? Because the commendation you talk about is not really loud in this statement. There's a lot of the condemnation and less of the commendation, and then the description of a lackluster commitment. So where lies what you talk about right now?
In terms of the commendation?
Yes.
Of course. Typically what you and I want as Ghanaians is to see to it that the Galamsey Act is stopped, if not drastically minimized. And to the extent that we still have pockets of it happening across the country, we as a pressure group, or an institution that is really up to seeing that particular existential threat is out of our way, will not just come and it's all about not looking into what is still exists, but giving this wholesale commendation. And that is why we still, for instance, Dr. Hanabisi saw some of the efforts she made on the field. We even met with the minister in charge, Honorable Amabua, and some of the updates given in terms of the reclamation of 8 out of the 9 forest reserves. There's been many efforts. And with all these other efforts put together, if you still look at what is left, we still think that we can pat government at the back, but more needs to be done. And that what needs to be done should come with more effort from our point of view than we are seeing now. Because the enterprise of the Galamsey system is not a weak one. And to that extent, if we practice what we've been doing and we are still not getting a holistic picture out of it, then we still have to double up. And in doubling up means that for us as watchers and as stakeholders who are interested in it, means that we have to give government the push. And then we commend you, but we have to tell you that more has to be done, and that the effort here at this moment, the momentum here at this moment, has to be doubled up so that we can ramp up this particular challenge.
Professor Mune, I appreciate your time on this, and I thank you so much. But maybe just within a second or two, what's the timeline for this expectation that you put to government action? What you want government to do before you go on this strike, as you have notified?
So typically, for now, we are not threatening strike. What we have from, if you read out the entire statement, what we are calling for government is a double action. However, and what we are doing is engage both government through dialogue process and then the general public. And we are hoping that within this period, government will listen to the plea and the questions and other things that we are raising, and then this effort towards eradicating this will come through. And we are only looking into the future that if these things are not done as we are requesting, we have other procedural processes that we'll have to follow. If our members mandate us to move on to the industrial action angle that government is not responding appropriately, why not? We will take that route. But for now, our aim is to engage dialogue and make sure that we get productive outcomes at the end.
I thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you. Professor Eliasu Momoni is the National Secretary of the University Teachers Association of Ghana, UTAG. Let's go to some more stories.
Yes, the Bank of Ghana has assured the business community, particularly members of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA, that there is no shortage of foreign exchange, Forex, in the system. This is despite recent concerns raised by traders. This assurance follows a meeting between the central bank and GUTA leadership after widespread complaints from traders about difficulties accessing Forex from commercial banks. GUTA President Joseph Obeng, in a statement, urged members of the business community to remain calm as the Bank of Ghana works to resolve the issue. He further encouraged traders to report any continued difficulties in accessing Forex to help the association monitor the situation and follow up accordingly. GUTA stated that the Bank of Ghana assured them that there is sufficient Forex exchange available and that the situation does not warrant panic. According to the statement, the central bank also pledged to engage with commercial banks to understand the root cause of the reported challenges and to take appropriate steps to address them. Alfred.
Let's stay a bit further on this, and thankfully we have the president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA, Joseph Obeng, joining us on the telephone. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, this is the assurance coming from the Bank of Ghana. The central bank is saying that, yes, there's enough dollars in the various commercial banks and that they would engage with the commercial banks in the coming days to understand why there is the reported shortage when your members go to the banks to transact business in dollars. Does that address the concerns that you had earlier?
Yeah, that's what we brought our press release to indicate that the Bank of Ghana have given us that assurance. And that's why we are also calling for calm from our members. So that's exactly what the assurance is all about. And you see, for the past couple... Hello?
I can hear you clearly.
Yeah. The past couple of about 6 weeks, our members have been complaining about the difficulty in accessing the Forex from the mainstream banks. Even though it's not difficult for us to get the same Forex from the black market and the Forex bureaus. So it has become very worrying when one is transferring money abroad. Normally, it would take about 2 days or same day. It has same day value or maximum 2 days value. And now you have to join the queue or wait for about 3 weeks before you accept. And that's what most of our members have been complaining about. And we have to call on the Bank of Ghana to find out what is actually happening. So the meeting gave us the assurance that there's enough for it and that the bank is going to communicate with the banks or call on the banks to find out where the problem actually is.
I see. But considering the fact that there is still that lingering problem of how early or how soon you have access to the Forex, did the Bank of Ghana give you an assurance of addressing that one as well, apart from the availability?
Yeah, the Bank of Ghana seem not to know that problem. You understand? So it means that Bank of Ghana knows that they have the Forex, and then the banks are doing the needful. So we gave them the first-hand information about what is going on, and that they also said that they are surprised that this complaint is coming about. And so it is very important, because what we are saying is very true. Everybody you ask, any business person you ask, will tell you that recently we are having that difficulty and for transfers of for our businesses. So that's the reason why we also called on the Bank of Ghana to track the demand of the Forex at the banks, the flow of the Forex. Because we don't know whether there are some bigger entities that are swallowing this Forex, as the bank is saying that there's availability where we do not have. And then also, about 70% of our transactional rates is derived from the black market or the Forex bureaus. About 70%. So what is the benchmark when we say that we have the gains? Are we using the bank rate to benchmark the gains, or we are using the Forex rate to benchmark these gains that we are all talking about? And if care is not taken and we do not act quickly, the Bank of Ghana do not act quickly, then it might fuel speculation. That's the reason why we find it difficult to even complain for about 6 weeks, because we don't want anything that was full negative speculation around the gains that we are having now.
Yeah. And that's a fundamental issue as well, and because then again, that also would influence a possible artificial increase in the value of the dollar, all right, against the cedi, and that would also have an impact on the prices of products on the market.
That's the more reason why the Bank of Ghana should act fast, quickly, especially when they are very sure that they have the Forex, and at least by the assurance that they give us, and we trust them. The transparency that Bank of Ghana is having with this these days is very assuring, and we believe that we have the Forex. But what is the problem here? Where the black market or the Forex bureaus are having this Forex in abundance, and then the mainstream commercial banks are having inadequate of the Forex. And so that's the question that arrived. We have to find out the reason. Yeah.
I see. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. I really appreciate your time as always. That's the president of the Ghana Union Trade Association, Joseph Obeng, there.
Now, the Ministry of Labour, Employment and Jobs has taken another step towards addressing youth unemployment by signing a memorandum of understanding with some German companies. This new partnership with the German companies aims to equip young Ghanaians with the skills needed to thrive in both local and international job markets. The agreement focuses on technical and vocational education and training, commonly known as TVET, with a special emphasis on skills relevant to the construction industry. The Minister for Labour, Jobs and Employment, Dr. Rashid Pelpo, expressed deep confidence that this will reduce unemployment rate among the youth in the country. Take a listen.
Togo, you remember, had been a German colony. That training they give them is still there. Now we have the ability, we have the opportunity to train ourselves again, to get into the position of providing the needed skill we require for our developments. So this MAU signing serves as a fundamental stone for the 4th Ghana-German Construction Day 2025. The overarching team, Ghana-German Construction Partnerships, launching ROSETs to build a skilled collaborative workforce, perfectly encapsulates our collective ambition Our strategic engagement today directly precedes the main GGDCD event tomorrow, where we will explore the mechanics of the collaborations. Looking ahead to the broader scope of the event for which this MOU lays the foundation, our key objectives are clear. We aim to strengthen international collaborations in construction, fostering an environment where shared expertise and innovative practices can flourish. A cornerstone of this partnership is the official launch of the ROSET initiative, recruiting of clever, enthusiastic team players. ROSET is designed as a comprehensive initiative that shamelessly combines three vital components. One, the robust career guidance systems to steer our youth towards promising construction careers.
So that's the Minister for Labour, Employment and Jobs, Rashid Popo there.
Now, Ghanaians applying for U.S. non-immigrant visas will now face an additional $250 fee following a new policy introduced by the United States government. The fee, described as a visa integrity surcharge, applies to various categories including tourists, students, exchange and work visas. This new charge pushes the total cost of a typical U.S. visa application for Ghanaians closer to $500, excluding other expenses such as travel, documentation, and appointment-related costs, according to a report by independent.co.uk, which confirms that the recently announced $250 visa integrity fee will apply to all non-immigrant visa holders from Ghana and other countries not part of the U.S. visa waiver program. This includes tourists, students, and temporary workers.
Women as well, or just stay in Ghana. But let's get into some sort of very quick one before we go. A Tamale Circuit Court, presided over by Francis Asubayere, has convicted Alhaji Abdullahi Sayuti, a 53-year-old pharmaceutical distributor, and fined him over 1.6 million Ghana cedis, equivalent to 14,000 penalty units. Let's get a brief one on this. And Christopher Malcolm is our Northern and Savannah regional correspondent. Chris, what more do we know about this development?
So during the proceedings, the presiding judge indicated that either he pays the money or he will go and serve a 25-year prison term. As we speak, police have told us that they are gathering money to go and pay, but as it stands now, we do not have information as to whether he's been able to pay the money or he'll go and serve the prison sentence.
Great. Thank you so much for this update. Thank you so much. That's Christopher Marco, our Northern and Savannah regional correspondent. This is Hot Edition. We're back shortly after this quick break with the latest in the world of business. Bix Makawusa is standing by.
Ghana, it's a new year and Bills Microcredit is here to support your dreams. If you're not working but want to start a business, don't let money stop you. With just your Ghana card, you can get a loan to turn your ideas into reality. Already running a business? Need more capital? Or are you a salary worker looking for extra funds? Bills offers fast and easy loans with no collateral, no deposit, and no SUSI savings required. Wherever you are, whatever you need, Bills makes it happen. Call Bills Microcredit today. Call 0596-920-833 or 0302-200-390 and get started. Bills is licensed and regulated by the Bank of Ghana. Bills, financing your needs. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Coming up tonight, government renegotiates independent power producers IPP's contracts to strike fair balance between national interest and private sector participation. We'll hear from Sector Minister John Abdullahi Jinapo. Thanks for your company. Now to the very first story. Minister for Energy and Green Transition, John Jinapo, says the government is actively renegotiating contracts with independent power producers, IPPs, in a bid to strike a fair balance between national interest and private sector participation. Speaking at a high-level forum on Ghana's energy sector, organized by the Africa Center for Energy Policy and the Open Society Foundations, John Jinapo acknowledged the challenges he inherited upon assuming office. However, he expressed optimism about the sector's future, stating that reforms underway would help stabilize the energy landscape and ensure long-term sustainability.
We are renegotiating with some of the IPPs, and we believe that under the leadership of Ben and Co., who are spearheading that agenda for us, we'll be able to come to some very, very favorable terms with the IPP, so we can have a win-win situation. We are also working on our gas infrastructure as transition fuel. We are well aware of Ghana's energy transition, and we believe that as the world is transitioning, gas will serve some good purpose whilst we roll out a lot of renewable energy. And it's not for anything that President Mahama decided that he would add green transitions to the ministry. It's because he wants us to focus more and be heavy on renewable energy. And so we are putting in place a lot of reforms. We've decided that henceforth, when it comes to procurement of power, we want to do that through competitive process. The days when the private sector just bring their terms and dump it on us are over. We want to set our parameters and ensure that we benefit from that.
And that was Minister for Energy and Green Transition, John Abdullahi Jinapo. Now, the civil society organization CSO's Budget Forum has called on government to introduce additional policy measures aimed at stabilizing the Ghana cedi in the 2025 mid-year budget review. The call by the forum comes just days ahead of the presentation of the mid-year budget by Finance Minister Dr. Kasiel Atoforsen, scheduled for Thursday, July 24, 2025. The cedi, which has shown some relative strength this year, has recorded a year-to-date appreciation of 50% against the US dollar, according to Fitch Solutions. The local unit is currently trading at 10 cedis 40 pesos to the dollar on the interbank market, although retail market quotes remain significantly higher at over 12 cedis. Meanwhile, the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana is calling for 10% of any projected increase in government spending to be allocated to the agricultural sector. The association had earlier raised concerns over what it described as inadequate budgetary support for the sector in the original fiscal plan. Speaking to three business on the sidelines of a CSO forum on mid-year budget expectations, Executive Director Bismarck Tete Usunote also urged government to review taxes on agricultural inputs to ease the burden on farmers.
We expect that if the government is making a case for an increase in expenditure, at least 10% of it should go to the agricultural sector based on the projection that we have for the sector. We know the rollout of the Feed Ghana has started. The Peasant Farmers have taken delivery of some inputs from the ministry, which we are very grateful. We actually think that we could have gotten more if they had enough allocation. We also have witnessed some drop in prices of inputs like seed and fertilizer, around 10 to 15%. But I still think that the price can still go a bit lower. And we believe that what is holding up the prices is the taxes on them. As part of the 120-day social contract, the government promised that we are going to review the Tax Exemptions Act to take off taxes on agricultural input and equipment. That was not done in the main budget. So we are hoping that with this mid-year budget, government should quickly begin legislation to review the Exemptions Act and ensure that whatever agricultural imports we're having, that's the input and equipment, we don't have taxes on them.
That was the And that was Executive Director of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana, Bismarck Tete Ousunote, ending the business news on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck Ausa. Sports is here with Oreku Ampofu. Please stay.
Good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Oreku Ampofu. We start off from the ongoing Women's AFCON, where the Black Queens head coach Kim Las-Yekegren has admitted that Ghana's semi-final clash against host nation Morocco will be a tough challenge as his side pushes for a historic spot in the final of the competition. The Queens sealed their spot in the semi-final after an electrifying 4-2 penalty shootout triumph over Algeria.
Maybe the toughest game that is possible in this tournament. A strong team, and of course in their home country with all the fans that supporting them. But at the same time, I'm just talking for myself. It's the game to play as well for me to coach. So I'm really looking forward to this game, and it's going to be a good memory, hopefully.
So that was head coach of the Black Queens as he gets ready to face Morocco on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Let's do some more here, where the Ghana Football Association has officially released the dates for the 2025-2026 Ghana Premier League season. The new campaign will kick off on the weekend of September 12, 2025 and conclude on either May 23 or 24 in 2026, aligning perfectly with the FIFA calendar and ensuring local competitions finish before the 2026 FIFA World Cup in North America. My colleague Mutala Yakubu provides all the insights you need to know.
Of course, especially when you are entering a World Cup year, you need to draw a calendar that aligns with the FIFA calendar itself. And the World Cup will start somewhere in June 2026, sorry. So that is why our league will start in September and end in May. Last season, we started around 8th September. This time we are starting on the 12th because of the tight schedule that we have. Remember, there are so many events that will happen between now and the start of the league, like the top 4, which will be played in August, where we will have the likes of Asante, Kotoko, and Accra to all participate. And also, in between there is the Democracy Cup, which would come. There is also the Gamanche Cup that would come. So there are so many, football competitions before the big one, which is the league itself. And I feel the GFA have done an incredible job. They've given us all the timelines as to when each match will be played. Bar any circumstance, we should go by that calendar, unlike last season where there was a bit of a disruption due to the Inswatre incidents. But this time we are playing for an incident-free league so that we can go according to the schedule and players will have enough rest. Maybe we'll have 1 or 2 players from our league joining the Black Stars for the World Cup proper.
Now, quickly before we go, let's bring some updates from the camp of Asante Kotoko, who have officially unveiled Karim Zito as the club's new head coach, signing him onto a 2-year deal. Zito joined on an interim basis in the final months of the season, but has now been given the deal on a permanent basis as Kotoko look to navigate their way through the domestic competition and in Africa as well. My colleague Richard Echampon, who is the head of Akoma Sports, attended the unveiling on Sunday and discusses what should be the expectations for the new coach.
Up has a target to win the Ghana Premier League, the MTN Cup, and then they would want to perform very well in the CAF Confederations Cup. at the official announcement ceremony where the club's chairman, Nana Abenkra Akosiewa, announced Zito as the head coach for the next 2 years. He did emphasize that one of the key reasons why it is Karim Zito they settled on is the fact that he last played in the CAF Confederations Cup semi-finals. And so it is clear that Abdul Karim Zito has a target to win the Ghana Premier League, to retain the FA Cup that he won for the club just last season, and then to do very well in the CAF Confederations Cup. The fans that we spoke to at yesterday's ceremony were optimistic that if coach could carry Dreams FC, Amino, to the semi-finals, then obviously he can take Kotoko to the finals and probably bring the cup to Kumasi. And so the expectation is that for next season, that is the 2025-2026 season, he will do well in the CAF Confederations Cup, and then he will annex the double in Ghana.
Well, that was my colleague Richard Champon bringing an end to the sports segment here on Hot Edition. My name is Oreku Ampofo.
Well, that's it for